Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take complex research and, we really try to distill the essential truths, giving you the knowledge you need to cut through all the noise.
Mm.
Today, we are not looking at external tactics, no productivity hacks.
Yeah.
We are tackling the core psychological and, I guess, operational friction that just plagues people who are otherwise seen as successful.
Right. And the material we have for this deep dive, it speaks directly to this huge, enduring question. Why do we keep failing at the things that actually matter most to us?
Yeah, why is the truth about lasting success so hidden from us?
Exactly.
And, you sent us notes that really reflect this. I mean, you might be that executive saying, I'm having tremendous professional success, but it's completely cost me my family life.
My marriage is fractured. I feel like a stranger to my own kids. We hear that a lot.
All the time. Or maybe you're wrestling with personal integrity. I've started a new diet, a new exercise routine for the 5th time this year, and I just can't keep a promise to myself.
Even the small ones.
Even the small ones. Or you just feel this relentless, crushing pressure of time. Or maybe you're a leader and you don't have loyalty from your employees, even though you think you treat them well.
Right. You feel empty, unbalanced, perpetually stuck.
Despite checking all the boxes that society told you were required for success.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to find the truth revealed behind these failures. We are digging deep into the principles of effectiveness to understand why using techniques and quick fixes, this outside-in approach, it just never works long-term.
And we're introducing this foundational idea that, permanent success and failure, they really stem from something internal, from fundamental character and timeless principles.
So to understand why these failures keep happening, we had to start with the history of advice itself,
I
right?
do. For the last, 50 years or so, a huge amount of the success literature, and really our popular culture, has focused almost exclusively on what the source material here calls the personality ethic.
Okay, the personality ethic. That's the stuff we all recognize instantly, isn't it?
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's the focus on social image, communication skills, a positive mental attitude.
Negotiation techniques, projecting confidence.
Yeah.
All the things that create a really impressive outward impression.
It's the veneer.
Yeah.
And the flaw here is just, it's foundational. These are all secondary traits.
Secondary. What do you mean by that?
Well, sources argue that relying on the personality ethic is like applying social band-aids and aspirin.
Okay.
If you have a crisis, an acute problem, they might manage the symptoms for a bit. They might even make you look successful in a short interaction.
But they don't fix the root cause.
They leave the chronic underlying character problems completely untouched.
So you're saying you can learn the technique for, say, negotiating a raise, you can memorize the perfect motivational speech, you can even maintain a perfectly positive attitude. But if your character beneath all that is, well, rotten, the whole thing eventually collapses.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because you just cannot fake integrity forever. The core argument revealed in this deep dive is that in the long run, in any long-term human relationship,
A marriage, a business partnership.
or even the relationship with yourself, failure will eventually replace that short-term success if the connection isn't built on deep integrity and fundamental character strength.
It's like that law of the harvest.
It is the immutable law of the harvest.
Yeah.
You can't reap trust and respect and loyalty if you've been sowing deceit, manipulation, or self-neglect. True motives, even if you hide them under smooth techniques, they always surface.
This has always come out in the end.
And they dictate the long-term outcome.
That brings us to our first major area of failure, which actually comes before any effort or discipline. This is part 1, the failure of vision. And it starts with what the sources call flawed paradigms.
A paradigm is, it's essentially a map. It's a theory, an explanation, a mental model. We all carry thousands of these mental maps around in our heads.
And they just govern how we interpret everything.
Everything. They fall into 2 categories: maps of reality, so how things are, and maps of values, how things should be.
And the really dangerous part is that we almost never question them.
Yeah.
We just assume the way we see things is, well, objective reality.
Exactly. And if we feel stuck, we think the solution is just to try harder.
Right, more effort, more hustle.
But the critical difference between success and failure here isn't attitude or effort, it's accuracy.
Okay.
And this is so well illustrated by the analogy of the wrong map. Suppose you're trying to navigate central Chicago, but you were accidentally handed a highly detailed, beautifully printed map of Detroit.
Oh, wow. Okay. That would be frustrating. But I'd probably just blame the traffic or, my own inability to drive.
And that's the entire point. If you apply the personality ethic to that situation, your diligence, your positive attitude, your enthusiasm,
Right.
all of that only makes you more effectively lost, faster.
So you're just running harder in the wrong direction.
Precisely. The first, most important requirement for effectiveness is the accuracy of the map. If the paradigm is flawed, if the map is wrong, no amount of efficient hacking or hard work is going to help you find your destination.
You have to change the map first.
You have to. And this challenge is made so clear by that famous perception demonstration, the one with the composite picture.
Oh, the old lady and the young woman.
Yes. So students were briefly shown a picture. One group was conditioned beforehand to see an old hag, maybe by looking at other images of older women. The other group was conditioned to see a young woman. And when they finally looked at the composite picture, which has the exact same black lines and white spaces, the same objective facts, they argued vehemently.
One side saw a beautiful woman of 20. The other saw an old woman with a giant nose.
They weren't disagreeing on facts, they were disagreeing on the interpretation of the facts, and that interpretation was fixed by their conditioning.
So sincere, intelligent people can look at the same data and see two completely different things.
Because where we stand depends on where we sit. If your deep-seated paradigm tells you that success means accumulating power and working 80 hours a week, then that's what you will see, regardless of the fact that your family life is crumbling around you.
So the key takeaway here is that trying to change outward attitudes and behaviors, the focus of the personality ethic, is just. It's futile if the basic internal paradigms from which they flow are flawed.
It's completely futile. You have to change your viewing lens first to get any kind of real quantum change.
And when that viewing lens is flawed, what we so often see in the day-to-day is this social addiction to blame and victimism.
Oh, these are the defining characteristics of ineffectiveness. They stem directly from the belief that the map outside of you is the problem.
The finger pointing.
Endless finger pointing. If only my spouse wasn't so demanding. If only my boss gave me credit. If only I hadn't inherited this bad financial situation.
And it feels good for a second, right? The quick fix for the pain.
It provides temporary emotional relief, but the problem with blame is that it literally chains us to these very problems. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to take responsibility for.
If you believe your unhappiness is caused by something external, you make yourself a victim. You immobilize yourself.
You surrender your power to choose, which is the foundational failure. And this paralysis by blame, it ties directly into the other big one, the lack of life balance.
We feel so pressured and exhausted just chasing results all the time. Why do our modern cultural scripts push us so hard toward this imbalance?
Well, because our culture values production, the P over production capability, the PC. We'll get into that more later, but the effect is we're constantly pressured to prioritize the urgent.
Go in earlier, stay later, be more efficient.
Right. And the result is we find ourselves perpetually occupied with the thick of thin things. We sacrifice the long-term assets, our health, our family, our integrity for short-term metrics like getting to inbox zero.
True balance isn't about rushing more efficiently from crisis to crisis.
Not at all. It follows the person who develops a clear sense of their highest non-urgent priorities, their quadrant 2 activities, and then lives with integrity toward those priorities.
And to break free, we need that radical internal shift. You mentioned the subway anecdote where irritation just instantly transformed into compassion.
Yes. The author was on the subway, and he was getting so irritated because a man's children were just loud, rambunctious, disturbing everyone.
And his initial map was?
His paradigm was, he's insensitive, he's a bad parent, he has no social awareness, and the irritation just flowed naturally from that judgment.
That's the typical reactive response.
It is.
Yeah.
But when he finally said something, the man replied quietly that they'd just come from the hospital where their mother had died an hour ago. He said, I don't know how to handle it, and neither do the children.
Wow.
Everything changed in an instant. The irritation vanished. It was replaced by this profound compassion. The outward behavior, the kids being loud, didn't change, but the interpretation of the behavior did.
He didn't have to try to control his attitude. His heart just filled with the man's pain.
Exactly. And that quantum change from irritation to compassion, it shows that lasting change requires shifting your being, your internal map, before you try to manage the external world.
That realization leads us straight into our second major area of failure, which is the failure to choose. This is habit 1, proactivity. It's allowing life to happen to you and that of being the creative force.
Right. And to get there, we first have to explore these very appealing but limiting deterministic models that trap people in victimhood.
These are the ones that suggest we're basically just programmed machines.
Exactly. First, there's genetic determinism, the belief that your temperament is hardwired, inherited. Your grandparents did it to you.
That's why you have a short temper. That's why you're messy.
Right. And the second is psychic determinism, the belief that your upbringing and childhood experiences govern all your adult tendencies. Your parents did it to you.
So if you fear public speaking, it's because of some emotional scripting from when you were a kid.
And we have to acknowledge that these paradigms, they often come from studying animals or, people with severe psychological issues.
Right. So the map of determinism is based on instinct and conditioning,
Right.
but it fails to describe the full territory of human potential.
We're not just programmed like animals are. We are self-aware. We can step back and analyze the program itself.
And no one illustrated this better than Viktor Frankl.
Frankl, a psychiatrist imprisoned in the Nazi death camps, he endured starvation, torture, saw his family perish. He was stripped of everything.
He controlled his body, his circumstances, everything.
Everything. Yet he made this profound discovery that underpins all effectiveness. He found the last of the human freedoms.
Which was the freedom to choose his inner response.
He realized that between the stimulus, the unbearable cruelty, and his eventual response to it, there was a space, a gap. And in that space lay his power to choose.
So he chose how he would feel, how he would think.
He used his mental freedom to imagine lecturing about the psychology of the concentration camp after his liberation. He gave purpose and meaning to his suffering.
And this freedom is supported by the 4 unique human endowments that separate us from animals.
These are the foundation of our proactive power. First is self-awareness, the ability to stand apart from ourselves and examine our own thoughts and moods. We are not our feelings.
We can observe them.
Second is imagination, the ability to create things in our minds that don't exist yet. Third is conscience, our deep inner awareness of right and wrong.
And finally, independent will.
The power to act on our self-awareness, independent of all other influences. It allows us to choose our response.
So the ultimate failure to choose is when we just default to our conditioning. We surrender these 4 endowments and live these limited, reactive lives.
Precisely. Which leads us to habit 1, proactivity. And proactivity isn't just taking initiative. It means our behavior is a function of our decisions and our values, not our conditions or feelings.
Proactive people own their responsibility.
Their ability to choose their response. They never attribute their behavior to circumstances. And the clearest indicator of this is the language we use.
Reactive language is just full of subtle helplessness.
Yeah, compare them. Reactive people say, I can't do anything about it, or he makes me so mad, or the classic, if only.
Whereas proactive people,
They eliminate those phrases. They use language like, I choose a different response, or I prefer, or let's look at alternatives.
reactive people are driven by feelings. Proactive people subordinate feelings to their values.
Yes. For example, if a reactive husband says, the feeling of love just isn't there anymore, the proactive person realizes that love isn't just a feeling, love is a verb.
The action.
The action. The proactive response is, then love her, serve her, sacrifice for her, listen to her. Because love, the feeling, is the fruit of love, the verb.
And to visualize this, we use the model of the circle of influence versus the circle of concern.
Right. The circle of concern has everything we worry about but can't control. The economy, other people's weaknesses, the past, the political climate.
All the stuff we complain about.
Pretty much. And the circle of influence contains the things we can control. Our attitude, our choices, our actions, how we respond, our own development.
And reactive people, when they're failing, they focus entirely on the circle of concern.
Which generates nothing but negative energy blaming, accusing, feeling victimized. And critically, this focus causes their circle of influence to shrink. It makes them even more helpless.
The shift came when they realized their own paradigm was flawed. They decided to work entirely within their circle of influence.
They questioned their deep motives. They realized their desire for their son's success was partly about their own need for social mileage, for others to see them as good parents.
That's a conditional motive.
Very. When they shifted to genuinely focusing on their son's intrinsic worth, independent of any comparison, the energy shifted. They stopped trying to control the having and started working on their being.
And that shift in their being eventually created the space for the external situation to change.
Exactly.
And finally, a tough truth here. While we're free to choose our actions, We are absolutely not free to choose the consequences.
This is the nature of principle-centered failure. Consequences are governed by natural law, they're immutable, they're
So
fixed.
if you're dishonest,
The natural consequence to your character, the corrosion of trust, even if you're never caught, is fixed. When we pick up the stick of a dishonest action, we automatically pick up the other end, which is the consequence.
and ignoring mistakes and blaming others just makes it worse.
It's like chasing the poisonous snake that bit you. It only drives the poison further through your system. The antidote is immediate admission and correction.
That sets the stage perfectly for the second area of failure, which is about direction, not just effort. Part 3. The failure of leadership, climbing the wrong wall. Habit 2.
Begin with the end in mind. This is the principle of dual creation. The mental creation, the first one, has to precede the physical creation, the second one.
Before you build a skyscraper, you have a blueprint.
Right. We have to lead ourselves mentally before we manage ourselves physically.
And the classic failure here is getting caught in the activity trap, where we measure success by how busy we are, not by where that activity is actually taking us.
That is the ultimate trap of management without leadership. We work harder and harder, we get incredibly efficient, but we never check our fundamental direction.
The danger is climbing that ladder of success only to discover, when you get to the top, that it was leaning against the wrong wall.
You achieve the financial security, the recognition, the status, the victories, only to realize they are empty. They came at the cost of things that were far more valuable.
Family, health, self-knowledge.
All of it. And the source material drives this home with a thought experiment. If you're on your deathbed, how many people wish they had spent more time at the office?
0. Universally 0. They think about loved ones, the people they served, the integrity of their life.
And that vision has to guide the present, which highlights the absolute distinction between leadership and management.
Most people fail because they confuse the two.
Management is efficiency. How do I get the job done right? That's the second creation. Leadership is effectiveness. Knowing what the right job is in the first place. That's the first creation.
The jungle analogy.
The classic. Managers are deep in the jungle, hacking away with their machetes. The leader is the one who climbs the tallest tree, surveys the whole situation, and yells, "Wrong jungle! We're headed for the swamp."
And the managers, who are so driven by urgency and efficiency, they just yell back, "Shut up, we're making progress."
Precisely. Failure often stems from applying excellent management to the wrong purpose. You can be the most productive person on earth, but if you're going in the wrong direction, all that effort just accelerates your failure.
Leadership has to come first.
Always. And since we're often living these reactive scripts handed down by our family or our culture, habit 2 is the essential process of rescripting ourselves.
We use those 4 endowments, self-awareness, conscience, imagination, independent will, to examine the ineffective scripts we've been given.
And then we proactively write our own personal constitution, a mission statement based on principles. That becomes the criteria by which we make every single decision.
And this failure of leadership is tied to the vulnerability caused by centering our lives on unstable sources.
They're all changeable, external, subject to forces outside your control. For example, spouse-family centeredness. Your security comes from the family unit.
So if your spouse changes or a kid struggles, your whole world is threatened.
You overreact. You sacrifice what's right in the long term for being popular with them now.
Or money-centeredness.
If your self-worth comes from your net worth, you're in a state of perpetual anxiety. Money provides no wisdom, no guidance. The same goes for possession-centeredness, which is just a desperate competition.
And then there's the dark side, enemy-centeredness.
Oh, this happens when a person feels unjustly treated, a bad divorce, a lawsuit, a difficult boss, and they make that perceived enemy the center of their lives.
So their entire life becomes a reactive response to that person.
They lose all intrinsic security because the enemy is allowed to distort their map of life. The failure is manifest. If your center is unstable, your whole life is volatile.
A reactive roller coaster.
The antidote and the basis of true leadership is the principle-centered paradigm. Principles, fairness, integrity, service, excellence. They are timeless, unchanging natural laws.
They are the only reliable center.
The only one that provides consistent security, guidance, wisdom, and power.
Okay, we've established vision and leadership. Now we move to the final piece of private victory, part 4. The failure of discipline. This is habit 3. Put first things first.
Right? This is the second creation, the physical execution. It's about effective self-management, and it requires independent will, the ability to make and, more importantly, keep commitments to yourself.
This is personal integrity.
The essence of it. This is where we separate the successful from those who just have good intentions. The successful person has the habit of doing the things failures don't like to do.
They subordinate their dislike, their feelings, to the strength of their purpose.
They have a bigger yes burning inside them, their mission statement, that allows them to say no to other things. We have to remember, the good is so often the enemy of the best.
So if people know their goals and have the right map, why do they consistently fail to manage their time?
They fall prey to the tyranny of the urgent. We can categorize everything based on urgency and importance. Most people live in quadrant, urgent and important, crises, deadlines, or quadrant 3, urgent but not important. Interruptions, some emails, busy work.
And the failure is the chronic neglect of quadrant 3.
Exactly. Quadrant 2 activities are important but non-urgent. Prevention, planning, relationship building, personal renewal.
The things that make a massive, long-term, exponential difference.
But people fail because the urgent overwhelms the important. They let quadrant 3's perceived urgency, the good, keep them from their unique contribution, the best, in quadrant 2.
You have to proactively schedule quadrant 2 a time. It will never just appear.
Never. And that desire for immediate payoff also leads people to shortcut the natural process of growth itself.
This violates the law of growth. Life is sequential.
A child has to turn over, sit up, crawl, then walk. You can't skip steps. If you try to force high-level success without first achieving independence, you just generate disappointment and frustration.
You can't fake maturity.
You can't. You have to patiently nurture capacity. Which brings us to the foundational equation of effectiveness, the PPC balance.
The goose and the golden egg.
The absolute essence of it. P is for production, the golden eggs, the desired results. Profit, a completed report, a clean room.
And PC is production capability.
The goose, the asset that produces the results. Your health, your equipment, your relationships. Failure is focusing only on P while neglecting or abusing the PC asset.
Let's look at that neglect across different assets.
Okay, physical assets first. If a company uses its machinery for 2 seasons, that's P without maintenance or oiling, that's PC. Eventually, the engine is lost.
Short-term production, but you destroy the asset.
In modern terms, this is burnout, technological debt. Now, in relational assets, it's even more critical. In a marriage, if both people are only focused on getting the golden eggs, the comfort, the benefits, they neglect the relationship itself.
The PC.
They stop making deposits, they become insensitive, they use manipulation, the trust deteriorates, as the source says, the goose gets sicker day by day until it dies.
And then there are no more golden eggs. And in parenting.
The temptation to force immediate results is huge. A parent forces a young child to share a toy at a party. The motive is P, the child shares, and the parent looks good.
So they use their superior size and authority to force compliance.
It's borrowing strength. It builds weakness in the child, who becomes dependent on external force. And it damages the relationship because fear replaces cooperation.
So the true PPC balance requires patiently building the child's internal capacity.
Even if it means sacrificing a short-term P goal.
Okay, we've covered the private failures. Now we transition into part 5. Interdependent failures, how we interact with others, habits 4, 5, and 6.
And the first failure here is relying on independence alone. Private victory is critical, but life is highly interdependent.
No one achieves their highest goals alone.
Right. Trying to achieve maximum effectiveness through independence alone is like trying to play tennis with a golf club. Success requires interdependence, and only independent people can choose to be interdependent.
The foundation of all of this rests on the emotional bank account.
The EBA. It's the measure of trust built in a relationship. Deposits are things like courtesy, kindness, honesty, keeping commitments.
Especially the small ones.
And withdrawals are discourtesy, ignoring the other person, betrayal. If the account is high, you have a reserve of goodwill. Communication is easy. If it's overdrawn.
You're in tension city, measuring every word, walking on eggshells.
Constant relationships require constant deposits, and the single most crucial deposit is personal integrity.
We often confuse honesty with integrity.
We do. Honesty is conforming your words to reality, telling the truth. Integrity is the higher standard, conforming reality to your words.
Keeping promises, fulfilling expectations.
That builds deep, foundational trust. And there's a powerful insight here about loyalty to those who are not present.
Being loyal to the absent.
It's a massive deposit into the EBA. When you defend someone who isn't there, a colleague, a family member, you are building the trust of the person who is there.
Because they realize that when they're absent, you'll treat them with the same respect.
Exactly. And conversely, if you betray a confidence, the person you're talking to knows you'll do the same to them. That duplicity is a huge withdrawal.
Let's analyze why people fail so often in negotiation and cooperation. Habit 4. Think win-win. It's rooted in the scarcity mindset.
The scarcity mentality flows from a deep inner insecurity. It's the flawed paradigm that there's only a finite amount of success or recognition to go around.
Life as a zero-sum game.
People with this mentality are constantly comparing and competing. They struggle to be genuinely happy for others' success. They surround themselves with yes people they can control.
And they see differences of opinion as insubordination.
They do. So the failure modes of win-lose or lose-win are just immature and destructive. The antidote is win-win.
Seeking mutual benefit, mutual satisfaction.
Operating from the abundance mentality that there's plenty for everyone. But to get to win-win, you have to balance two virtues: courage expressing your convictions and consideration respecting others' convictions.
The essence of real maturity.
If you're high on courage but low on consideration, you default to win-lose. If you're high on consideration but low on courage, you get loose-win. Both erode the relationship long-term.
And if a true win-win solution can't be reached.
The sources wisely suggest the power of no deal.
Win-win or no deal.
It's a vital option because it preserves the relationship, the PC, even if the immediate result, the P, isn't achieved. It signals integrity and mutual respect.
The software company anecdote.
Perfect example. They were negotiating an $84,000 contract, but the bank's team wasn't committed, so they chose to walk away, saying they only wanted to proceed if it was a true win-win.
That must have felt like a huge short-term loss.
It did, but it honored the principle. 3 months later, the bank came back, organized, committed, and signed a $240,000 contract.
Honoring the principle paid off.
Enormous long-term dividends.
Okay, moving to habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The failure here is probably the most common communication breakdown in history.
The biggest failure is that we listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. We filter everything through our own autobiography.
We project our own thoughts, feelings, motives onto the other person. We diagnose before we even know the symptoms.
We have to embrace empathic listening. Listening with the intent to understand the person's frame of reference, not just their words. You have to diagnose before you prescribe.
It's the mark of all true professionals. A doctor wouldn't prescribe surgery without checking you out first.
Yet we prescribe advice and judgments all the time without a diagnosis, and the failure is so painful in the example of the father trying to counsel his teenage son.
The son says, "School is for the birds, it's stupid."
And the father, with the best intentions, immediately launches into his own autobiography. He evaluates, he probes, he advises. "I felt the same way when I was your age," or "Look, have you really tried?"
What the father's really communicating is, "I don't understand you, but I understand the problem." And the son feels judged and misunderstood.
The father is in chapter 3 of his own life script. The resolution only comes when he shifts to empathic listening, reflecting back the feeling and the content.
You sound really frustrated and overwhelmed by school right now.
And once the son feels truly heard, the trust is established. He says, "I wish you would help me." Only then are they on the same side of the problem.
A huge deposit into the emotional bank account.
Critical.
Our final interdependent failure is the failure to value differences. Habit 6. Synergize.
Synergy means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's the highest expression of all the previous habits. It's the creative process of finding a third alternative, a solution better than what anyone originally proposed.
But synergy is uncertain, and insecure people resist it. They prefer conformity.
They fall into the failure of conformity. They believe sameness is oneness, and they try to clone others because differences feel threatening. But sameness is inherently uncreative and boring.
The key is valuing the differences.
Valuing them. Recognizing that you and I can look at the same facts, like the old hag young woman, and both interpretations are valid, we synthesize the two to get a richer picture of reality.
The failure is so clear in the classic marital disagreement over vacation.
The husband wants a quiet fishing trip. The wife wants to visit her ailing mother 250 miles away. Without trust and a win-win mindset, they default to compromise.
They split up and feel guilty, or one person grudgingly gives in.
Both results generate negative energy and erode the EBA. A synergistic approach doesn't compromise. It finds the third alternative.
By valuing the underlying needs.
They pool their deeper desires. His need for relaxation and family bonding, her need to serve her mother. The solution isn't fishing or visiting,
It might be renting a cottage near the mother.
where they can still fish, bond, and spend meaningful time with her. The third alternative transcends their initial thinking and strengthens their relationship. It's the ultimate creative force.
Finally, we move to the maintenance habit, part 6, continuous failure and continuous renewal habit 7. Sharpen the saw.
This habit prevents the ultimate failure. Neglecting your production capability, your PC, for short-term production, P. The iconic analogy is the man in the woods feverishly sawing down a tree.
And when someone asks why he doesn't stop to sharpen his saw, he says, I don't have time to sharpen the saw, I'm too busy sawing.
That is the perfect encapsulation of the tyranny of the urgent. Sharpening the saw-balanced self-renewal has to be a proactive quadrant 2 activity. It's important, but it's never urgent.
Until the crisis hits.
And no one else can do it for us. It's the single most powerful investment we can make because we are the instruments of our own performance.
And failure to renew any one of the 4 dimensions creates this negative force field against growth.
It does. First, the physical dimension. Caring for the body, exercise, rest, food. Because exercise isn't urgent, we postpone it, which leads to fatigue and eventually quadrant health crises.
You have to dedicate the time, 3 to 6 hours a week.
And the sources note that almost all the long-term benefit comes at the very end, pushing beyond past limits, which strengthens your emotional fiber too. Patience, resilience.
Second, the spiritual dimension. Clarity of purpose and values.
This reinforces personal leadership habit too. It's highly personal meditation, prayer, quiet time alone to reconnect with your deepest center. It increases intrinsic security.
Like the executive prescribed a day on the beach to reflect on his motives.
And he realized, if one's motives are wrong, nothing can be right. Spiritual renewal provides that guidance.
Third, the mental dimension. Continuing education.
Failure here results in a narrow, stagnant mind. We have to proactively read broadly a book a month, maybe, to expand our paradigms and keep the mental saw sharp.
And we have to manage the influence of media.
Especially television. We have to practice effective self-management, habit 3, to select programs that align with our values instead of letting it dictate them to us.
And finally, the social-emotional dimension.
Renewing our relationships through service, proactively making deposits in the EBA. It involves giving a positive reflection to others, seeing the Dulcinea within them.
Affirming their unique potential.
Giving them unconditional love and acceptance. Renewal here isn't about what others do for you, but about actively seeking to serve them.
And the 7 habits aren't just a checklist. They're a continuous cycle of growth.
Yes, they form an upward spiral of commit, do, learn. When we're self-aware, we have to choose principles to live by. Otherwise, we just become reactive.
And the beauty is, even when you falter on a habit, and you will daily, you learn from that failure.
You commit again, and you come back to the habit at a progressively higher level of sophistication and maturity.
So, after this deep dive, what is the final essential truth revealed for the listener who's feeling stuck or overwhelmed or successful but empty?
The core truth is that failure is not caused by lack of effort or bad luck. It's caused by flawed paradigms and the reliance on the superficial personality ethic, the outside-in approach.
You can't manage your way out of a leadership failure, and you can't use techniques to cover up a deficit in character.
Exactly. True effectiveness requires an inside-out approach. Taking radical responsibility for your responses, defining your life's direction based on principles, executing with integrity, and building interdependent trust.
It all comes from within.
And if you're worried about the volatility of your job or your finances, remember this. Economic security doesn't lie in your job or your stock portfolio. True financial independence lies in your power to produce.
In your ability to think, to learn, to create, to adapt.
That is the internal asset you must continually sharpen.
That is profound perspective on intrinsic security. Let's leave the listener with one final provocative thought to carry forward from this.
Live life in crescendo. It's a musical term. It means playing with ever greater energy, depth, and volume. It means the most important work you will ever do is always ahead of you.
Always expanding, always deepening your contribution.
Always growing. Do not retreat or retire from meaningful contribution. Avoid the diminuendo backing off, playing it safe, allowing your life to just whimper away.
Success is not a destination.
It's a constant process of renewal and growth, even when you stumble daily. And remember that the seemingly quiet work you do on your own character and in those 4 dimensions of self-renewal is the greatest work you will ever do.